Good morning. This is retired Pastor Karl Schmidt from Calvary Lutheran Church, a little Lutheran church in Amherst, New York. We welcome you to our broadcast this morning, February 11th of 2024, the third Sunday of pre-Lent, and the ushering in of the Lenten season. The text assigned for this last Sunday of pre-Lent is from Luke, the 18th chapter, verses 31 to 43. Then he took unto him the 12, and said to them, Behold, we go up to Jerusalem, and all things that are written by the prophets concerning the Son of Man shall be accomplished. For he shall be delivered unto the Gentiles, and shall be mocked, and spitefully entreated, and spitted on. And they shall scourge him, and put him to death, and the third day he shall rise again. And they understood none of these things. And this saying was hid from them, neither they knew the things that were spoken. And it came to pass that as he was come near to Jericho, a certain blind man sat by the wayside begging, and hearing the multitudes pass by, he asked what it meant. And they told him that Jesus of Nazareth was passing by. And he cried, saying, Jesus, thou Son of David, have mercy on me. And they that went before rebuked him that he should be quiet. But he cried out so much more, Thou Son of David, have mercy on me. And Jesus stood and commanded him to be brought unto him. When he was come near, he asked him, saying, What do you want me to do for you? And he said, Lord, that I might receive my sight. And Jesus said to him, Receive your sight, your faith has saved thee. Immediately he received his sight and followed him, glorifying God. And all the people, when they saw that, gave praise unto God. Here ends that portion of the gospel text. Now, the people that were following Jesus and the disciples were amazed by the fact that this guy who had been blind came up to Jesus. And I thought, Jesus has a sense of humor, because the first thing Jesus asked him, even though this man is being led by the hand by his friends, the first thing that Jesus says to him is, What do you want me to do for you? Duh. Kind of obvious. It's not one of those things where you really have to explain it, but, I'd like to receive my sight. Fine. Go. You're done. The thing is, this guy is dead. And whether or not he received his sight, to us, to me, to you, means essentially nothing. We don't know him. He's not a friend of ours. He's not a relative of ours. It's unlikely that he has any contact with us at all, being 2,000 years ago. So that's not the part of the text that matters to us. Yes, Jesus can heal. Fine. But there's a part of the text that does matter to us, that directly impacts you and I. And that's the first verse, verse 31. Then he took unto him the 12 and said unto them, and here's the bit that matters. Behold, we go up to Jerusalem, and all things that are written by the prophets concerning the Son of Man shall be accomplished. That's how it reads in the English. In the Greek, it reads a little differently, because the important bit is coming first. And what it says, and shall be accomplished all the things written by the prophets concerning the Son of Man. That's how it reads in word order in the Greek. However, what we can't see, and what Jesus is intending to tell us that matters to you and I, still is invisible, because our English language doesn't carry the meaning of these words. Shall be accomplished. Doesn't tell you when, doesn't tell you how, doesn't tell you level of certainty. It doesn't tell you a thing other than something will happen. English, in a lot of its ways, is vague. But Greek is not. It's one of the most precise languages ever created by man. And so, in the Greek, it's third person singular. It's not a lot of people that are going to fulfill the promises made by God throughout the history of God's people, but just one, third person singular. That's he, she, or it. Let's go with he. Singular, Jesus, the one speaking. Secondly, it's in the future. Now, we we look at kids. We have kids here. And you look at the kids and go, you can even ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they go, fireman, whatever, scientist, cook, a builder. Who knows? Whatever their heart's desire is. These days, you have the opportunity, most likely, if you have the ability, to accomplish that. It's really cool. Kids have more opportunity now than they've probably ever had with education, universal, and things like that. But the thing about the future is it's in uncertainty. Except Jesus here in this text, when he says he uses the future, he ties it to the indicative. He talks about a certain future, which I've never used. I can't use because I don't know if I'll be alive tomorrow. You can't tell someone, I'll be there for you, because there might be a Chevy hurtling down the road with a driver behind the wheel who's dead, who runs you over. You can't do a thing about it. You didn't know you were going to die that day, but God did. But you can't go making promises you can't keep, because you're not in charge of the future. There's a story in the Bible where there's this guy who's doing quite well, and he goes, I'm going to build bigger barns because, wow, I'm wealthy, I'm rich. And God looks at him and says, nothing wrong with working hard, but you're an idiot. Because tonight, I'm going to kill you in your sleep. And all of your well-laid plans, the thing you think matters, are going to come to nothing. Because I am going to finish you tonight. This is your last night on earth. So your future, in spite of all of the things you promise, all the things you plan, all of your intentions, are unachievable because you're not in charge of your future. Except Jesus, when he talks about his future, speaks in the indicative. And the indicative is certainty. It's the one voice in all of language that has no uncertainty with it. And no one uses that with the future, except Jesus does. Why? Because the path laid out for him by his Father would be accomplished right down to the very words that Jesus would say, such as these words. Because Jesus, just before he was about to die, speaks to his Father and says, Father, I gave them each and every single word you gave me to speak. I didn't come up with any words of my own, not a single word. On the other hand, every word you gave me to speak, I have spoken to them. I've delivered all of your words. Now, if you actually even deliver all the words that matter, then the actions around them are also done as well. And that's Jesus' point. That his future, which was going to end by the time he was about 30 years old, because part of his future was that it all culminated and led to one destination, the death of the cross. And this was, as the text says to the disciples and everyone else listening, made no sense. They didn't understand what Jesus was talking about. They didn't understand that he would be whipped. The word there in Greek is mastigates, which is, if you're familiar with the instrument torch, it'll be a cat of nine, a nice little Roman trick, taking a leather whip and adding metal bits to the ends. So it just ripped the flesh off and down into the bones and then took the bones. Nice for the Romans, but that's one of the words that he would be tortured with, and he was whipped. And this is not understood by anyone listening, except Jesus said it, because it was his future. Not only the garbage that people would heap on him, because crucifixion, that's rubbish. To be whipped with mastigates is rubbish. But what his Father was going to dump on him was far worse. His future at the hands of his own Father was to be destroyed, where humankind would have otherwise been destroyed. And this is fundamental. How so? Well, because human beings like to think we understand sin. I guarantee you, you do not. We also like to think we know what sin is. I guarantee you, you do not. How? How can I make such a statement? Easily. If the remedy to sin is that God, the only remedy, the single remedy, is that God the Father take his only begotten Son, have him born of Mary, and then live to be about 30, and then for the Father to reign all hell, all wrath, all anger. The Greek where there's orge, you've heard of him, ogre. God was going to go ogre on his Son while he was nailed and tied to the cross. Well, that's rubbish. And even Jesus was not thrilled about this plan. 3 times he asked Dad, hey, you know what else you got going here? What else are we going to do today? And his dad was like, the cross. Nah, seriously, what else are we going to do today? The cross. Okay, so I heard you say cross. Are you kidding or are you serious? Cross. Oh, so you're serious. Jesus wasn't fond of this idea. His dad was going to destroy him. And how was the weight of that? I don't know. That's why I can't tell you what sin is, because the remedy is horrific. If the remedy is horrific, then God only knows what the hell the problem is. And if you think in your little piddly brain, human, 9 ounces, 12 ounces of brain, that you understand that, wow, then Einstein, step back. We've just got a genius. I guarantee you don't. No one does. Instead, we just waddle in our own little stupidity. And this is the human plight. Not knowing the desperation of our problem, we don't have any clue what the remedy entailed. And I don't. I don't know what Jesus did for us on the cross. How did he endure that? I don't know. And yet the Father was satisfied in this. His wrath was quenched. And then his Son died. In the Hebrew, the curse upon humans is mut. That's Hebrew for to die, death. The soul that sins shall die, God said in Hebrew, mut. And Jesus gave up his soul and life to death. And that was it. He was dead. God-man died. Even though God cannot die, yet because he's true man, he died. And this is God's solution. Do I understand any part of that? Nope. But Jesus says it's certain, even though it was in his future. So he knew that's what he was going to do. He knew. And the beauty of this text is, even though the disciples didn't understand it, we live 2,000 years later. We do understand it because it's been explained to us. We've seen it finished. We stand in a different place from the disciples, a better place. We stand in the future, where we saw the certainty happen in the Gospels, in God's Word. And that is how it affects us, you and I, because it's finished, it's done. So that God's mercy, grace, kindness, peace, love, forgiveness, it's ours. In what measure? Complete. Full. Is there anything left for you to do? Nothing. Is there anything you could do? Nothing. Except just enjoy it. That's it. That's all that God's people can do anywhere, is enjoy it and then live in it. How? I don't know. You figure that out. God gave you a brain. Use it. Figure out how to live with each other. Be nice, etc. That's the whole thing. And that's why this word... Oh, one other thing about this word, it's not only third person singular future indicative, it's passive. Even Jesus wasn't the one carrying this out. This was all the direction of his Father. So who do we thank now and forever? Our Father, the one that Jesus taught us to pray to, in the Our Father. So that's the beauty of what one Greek word that Jesus speaks holds for us. An entire sermon in that one word to come to pass, to be fulfilled. And the root of that is telo, to happen, to be complete. So, that's the good news. That's what religion is. So have fun. Amen. This has been retired Pastor Karl Schmidt from Calvary Little Lutheran Church in Amherst, New York. And I hope you have a good day. Take care.